Hey there! So today we are going to talk about generation gaps in a workplace. Let me give an example. Sarah here is a 23-year-old clerk working in a firm. Jane, on the other hand, is a 55-year-old colleague of hers. Sarah saw Jane being distressed about something. Worried, she asks Jane if there's anything wrong. Jane replied that she's having issues to figure out how to use a video application for a conference later. Gladly, Sarah offered to help, as she didn't think of it as a big issue. Here, we can see quite a gap in the use of technology. Sarah, from a younger generation, finds it easy to handle new technology. Jane, however, is having quite a tough time with these modern technologies and applications.
Hello there. So, you may ask, what is a generation gap? So a generation gap is actually the difference between opinions and attitudes between one generation and another, such as the gaps between young people and their parents or even their grandparents. So these gaps are brought by the difference in tastes, such as in fashion taste or in food. It is also brought about by the difference in values, such as the value of respect, and also the difference in the outlook in life, and more. So these gaps can sometimes, or if not most of the times, lead to misunderstandings between people of different generations.
I think that the generation gap happen in workplace is all because since there are many older workers remain on the job longer and younger workers are entering the workplace right out of the school, so the workplace is now fragmented into various generations. So it is necessary to understand what generations exist or present in today's workplace. And also, since human life average is on 77 to 80 years old, so there are 4 potential generations that are still working nowadays.
So there are 4 main generations we are going to talk about. So the first generation is called the baby boomers. So the baby boomers are people who were born in 1946 up till 1964. The generation after that is called Generation X. These are people who are born between 1965 and 1976. The generation after Generation X, what generation do you think it is? X. So obviously it's called Generation Y. So the Generation Y, or more commonly known as the millennials, they are born between 1977 and 1994. So the last generation group, Generation Z. So this generation is people who are born between 1995 and 2010. So you may ask, what is the generation after Generation Z called? So they are actually called Generation Alpha, but the generation itself, or the people who are born in this generation, they are quite young, so their generation is still ongoing since they are born between 2011 up till now.
So, as we all know, the first Gen Z workers are now entering the workforce, and large percentage of baby boomers are still continuing to work past their retirement age. As a result, many companies now employ workers from 4 generations, and while this variety of skills, knowledge and experience can form a valuable human capital, and managing a multi-generation workplace can be quite challenging. So here I want to highlight 3 common problems that can happen in workplace if there are generation gap between them. The first one is negative stereotype about other generations. As an example, baby boomers don't know how to use modern technologies. Millennials are lazy. Gen X workers just go ahead do what they want. And Gen Z workers don't have any interpersonal skills. Unfortunately, this kind of stereotypes like these are abound, and they are not really conducive to a pleasant and productive work environment. And this is all because of lack of understanding between the generations and frequently lead to lack of respect between them. The second problem is different work styles. There can be a significant divide between how the generations prefer to work. Example, the millennials use a lot of gadgets, use a lot of technologies to do with their work. Maybe they could learn a bit about hard work from the older generations, but the older generation is sometimes, I'm so sorry to say this, but too old school sometimes. So they do a lot by paper and generally aren't as good with technologies. So it can make the work fall behind and make it a bit slower to finish up. It's not like they are not good at all, but they good, but maybe a bit slower. So the third one is communication problems. Over time, we have transitioned from in-person communication to text, emails, even emojis we can communicate. So, the transitions come difference in how the generations communicate at work. You may think it's not a big deal. I do my work, you do your own work, we finish up, then it's all done. But it is such a big deal because the act of communicating is not just like communicate, but we are share ideas, opinions, and information. So the generation need to understand each other to communicate well. So companies today have young and old generations working alongside. If an organization have prevalence of a multi-generations workforce, it means that the manager or senior leaders must ensure to divide collaboration, understand the need of the generations, and focus on the value that they can add. So here I want to highlight some of the points on how to bridge generation gap in the workplace. So first of all is to focus on the similarities. The basic approach is to focus on similarities and not the differences between the various generations. Experts say that core values are likely in alignment regardless of age gap, and focusing on this can create open-mindedness and flexibility within the company culture. The second one is keep communication open. This communication thing is a very important point because communication is the key in bridging workplace age gap. Like you can do some exercises like team building, employee social and technical events, or CSR activities that can make the teamwork of various generations good. The third one is encourage mentoring. Creating a mentoring program is very crucial because mentoring enables individuals to meet and gain direction and also learn from experience of other individuals in each generation. And the last one is to set up expectations clearly. Setting clear role expectation will ensure a fully functional and enabling work environment. Like millennials have a thirst to learn and are respectful to the older generations. And millennials also, I think, millennials can put their ego aside and learn from the older generations some wisdom and experience, while the older generations can learn from the younger generations about technologies or the recent things.
Listening to the explanation just now, we wondered, what does others think of generation gaps in their workplaces? So, here we have Muhammad Hafizi bin Samsuri, a 25-year-old engineer working in a company in Kedah. Let's hear his thoughts and opinions on this topic.
Pengalaman saya berkaitan generation gap ni, dia ada dua. Satu, generasi yang dah tua, ada yang dah lama bekerja, lepas tu dengan yang baru masuk ni. Lepas tu masalah dia, golongan yang muda ni bila dia orang baru masuk, selalunya contohnya kalau macam dia orang belajar tinggi, So expectation generasi yang tua ni terhadap generasi yang muda ni sebenarnya tinggi. Dia anggap bila belajar tinggi apa semua, kita tahu macam-macam apa semua. So golongan muda ni akan sentiasa kena judge dengan golongan yang lebih tua ni. Tapi yang bagusnya bila ada dua generation gap ni, bagi orang yang muda yang baru masuk kerja, sebenarnya kita dapat belajar banyak daripada generasi yang tua ni, sebab dia orang dah lama bekerja dan daripada banyak pengalaman cara-cara kerja apa semua. Sebenarnya kita boleh je kerja sekali, sebab yang paling penting sekarang ni saling hormat menghormati.